Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into the electrifying story of Nikola Tesla, a man hailed as a genius by some and dismissed as a madman by others. Who is he really? Let's explore the life, inventions, and mysteries behind one of history's most fascinating figures. Stay tuned. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. This is a weird one, a really weird one. I'm 38M, married, technically, to my wife, 37F, for 8 years. She's always been, let's say, opinionated. We've had our share of arguments like any couple, but lately, it's like she's taken a personality pill that turned her into a different person entirely. And somehow, Nikola Tesla is involved. Yeah, I know how that sounds. I think I was crazy too. But hear me out. It all started 6 months ago when I picked up this mug at a vintage store. It had a quote from Tesla on it. "The present is theirs. The future, for which I really worked, is mine." I've always admired Tesla's brilliance. Underrated genius, got screwed over by Edison, died broke. The usual underdog story. I was reading more about him lately, even watching a few documentaries. My wife, let's call her Kelly, started acting weird about it. At first, it was playful jabs. "Oh look, my husband's in love with a dead inventor now," she'd say. Or, "You're gonna build a death ray in the garage next?" But then it got meaner. "No wonder you're obsessed with a guy who died alone. You're practically on your way there too." I laughed it off, at first. I thought she was being snarky, her normal self. But something started to feel off. The digs turned into full-blown arguments. She'd snap when I mentioned anything about Tesla, even in passing. Then one day, I came home and she had thrown out my books. Literally tossed my Tesla biographies and notebooks in the trash. Said it was junk science, and I was losing touch with reality. I was stunned. Not just because she threw away things I cared about, but the way she did it. No conversation, no warning. Just gone. That was the first crack in the glass. I still didn't know how deep the fissure ran, or how far this was going to go. But I had a gut feeling that Kelly wasn't just irritated by my new hobby. Something else was going on. And I was right. So after the whole book-burning incident, okay, technically trashing, but emotionally it felt medieval, I tried to talk to Kelly. I sat her down and calmly asked, "Why are you so angry about this Tesla stuff? It's just reading. It's not like I'm out building time machines in the basement." She rolled her eyes so hard I swear I heard them click. "Because it's weird, Jason. It's obsessive. You go down these rabbit holes and start acting like some genius inventor trapped in a cubicle. Newsflash, you're not Tesla. You're a middle manager with a 2003 Corolla. Low blow, but whatever." I tried to explain it was just a passion project, a way to keep my brain engaged. That's when she dropped the first real lie. "Well, maybe I wouldn't be so annoyed if you were present at home. Maybe I wouldn't feel like I had to handle everything alone." "What? Handle what? We don't have kids. We split bills. I cook half the meals. I do laundry. I refold her laundry when she messes up the corners." What the hell was she talking about? But I let it slide because I didn't want another fight. I was trying to fix things. Then, a few weeks later, I came home early from work after a meeting got canceled. Kelly wasn't expecting me. She didn't hear me come in. I walked upstairs and found her on a video call. She wasn't working. She wasn't Zooming with a friend. She was talking to some guy. Some tanned, smug-looking dude named Eli. And what did I hear? "He's so lost in that Tesla stuff now, he wouldn't notice if I dyed my hair green and took the dog to live in Spain." They both laughed. That fake, too loud laugh people do when they're flirting. There is no dog. And she hates Spain. Or at least she said she did when I suggested it for our anniversary trip last year. I backed out of the hallway like a cartoon thief and sat in my car for an hour pretending to check my tire pressure, just so I wouldn't scream. I didn't say anything that night. I couldn't. My brain was doing cartwheels. Was she cheating? Was this just an emotional thing? Was I overreacting? But the seed was planted. Whatever was happening, it was not about Tesla anymore. So yeah, after overhearing her cozy little call with Eli the tan torpedo of smug, I started noticing more things. Noticed how she suddenly kept her phone on silent all the time. Noticed how she'd go to Target and come back 3 hours later without a single shopping bag. Noticed how she started using words she'd never used before: frequency, vibrations, alignment. I couldn't figure it out. Was she mocking me? Or was she getting into my Tesla stuff behind my back? So like any slightly unhinged husband with a growing sense of paranoia and a betrayal complex, I started keeping notes. I pulled a whiteboard into the garage, started mapping timelines, tracking behavior. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I wasn't trying to prove she was a liar. I was trying to prove I wasn't crazy. And guess what? I wasn't. One night, I accidentally left my phone on the kitchen table, recording audio. I said I was going out for a walk. I looped around the block twice, then came back in through the back door 20 minutes later. I played the recording in the bathroom, heart hammering like I was disarming a bomb. And boom, there it was. Kelly, on the phone with someone, definitely Eli, saying this gem. I told him I threw out the books because they were dangerous. But really, I was just sick of hearing about Tesla. If he knew what you believed, he'd really lose it. He still thinks the government killed the guy. Excuse me? That's my theory. She mocked me for saying that. Now she's quoting it to Captain Coconut on the phone like she believes it? So not only is she cheating emotionally or physically, who knows, but she's also using the same Tesla stuff she trashed me for to bond with this other guy. I felt like someone had cracked my skull open and poured in molten gaslighting. That night, I didn't say anything. Again, I laid in bed pretending to sleep while she scrolled through her phone next to me, smiling like someone who's never felt guilty a day in her life. I was so mad I thought my jaw would break from how tight I was clenching it. Something was unraveling. In her, in me, in us. But I wasn't ready to pull the thread just yet. Not until the next surprise came crawling out of the shadows. Okay, so at this point, my marriage felt like one of those glitchy power grids Tesla warned about, unstable, overcharged, and seconds from a blackout. I was trying to keep it together, trying to stay calm, but the lies were stacking up like a game of emotional Jenga. And then came the stranger. I work a hybrid schedule, so I was supposed to be in the office that Thursday, but I forgot my laptop charger. I swung back home mid-morning, thinking I'd be in and out in 5 minutes. Wrong. When I opened the door, I heard voices. Not from a phone, not from a laptop. Actual, human voices. One of them was Kelly's. The other was a man's voice I didn't recognize. Deep, British, and oddly professorial. I tiptoed down the hall and peeked into the living room. There was Kelly, sitting very close on the couch with a guy who looked like a cross between Benedict Cumberbatch and a yoga instructor. He was holding my notebook, the one I used for my Tesla theories. Sketches, ideas, timelines, even this little mock-up of a wireless energy grid I'd been obsessed with lately. She was laughing and pointing to one of my diagrams. Oh no, he really thinks he's onto something. I keep telling him he's just tinkering, but he's convinced Tesla encrypted messages into Colorado Springs earthquake data. They both laughed. I don't even remember deciding to walk in. I just did. Like my body said, enough. Me. Sorry, am I interrupting the Tesla book club? They both froze. Kelly tried to act casual. Oh, hey babe. You're home early. This is Miles. I'm a friend. He's just helping me understand your theories better. So I can support you, you know? Miles smiled like a Bond villain. I find your ideas fascinating, mate. Nikola Tesla was a misunderstood genius. Have you ever considered that his Wardenclyffe Tower wasn't just for electricity? Oh, so now I'm Professor Paranoia and she's hosting weekly salon discussions on wireless energy with strange men in our house? I stared at her, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. She wasn't just lying to me. She was rebranding me. Like I was some quirky project she'd taken on to impress her little cult of crunchy guru boyfriends. I didn't say another word. I walked out, got in my car, and just drove. Parked in the grocery store lot and sat there for 2 hours with my head against the steering wheel. This wasn't just about Tesla anymore. It wasn't about infidelity or lies. It was about humiliation. She had turned me into a joke. In my own home. And I still didn't know the half of it. After the whole Miles the British Bond villain incident, something inside me snapped. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. I wasn't punching holes in the drywall or flipping tables like some dude in a reality show. I just got quiet. You know that eerie calm that washes over you when you finally stop fighting the current and let it carry you downstream? That was me. No more defending myself. No more, maybe she's just confused. I was done hoping. I was observing. And that's when the universe rewarded me with the final confirmation I didn't know I needed. See, Kelly's always been a little too attached to her phone. But after Teslagate, she started using her iPad more. Sloppy move. She didn't realize iMessages were syncing to it, and when I went to grab it one night to check a recipe, there they were. Texts. Hundreds. To 2 different guys, Eli and Miles. Apparently, I was part of some polyamorous humiliation kink club I never signed up for. Highlights included. He really thinks he's going to decode the government's Tesla files. Face with tears of joy. You should have seen the look on his face when I said you were just helping with his notes. I think he wanted to vaporize us with a death ray. He's so far gone, I bet I could tell him Tesla had a secret child and he'd build a baby monitor to track her. I stopped breathing for a second. My chest felt like someone had turned my ribs into piano wire. But it wasn't just the texts. It was a voice memo. From her. In it, Kelly said, I don't even feel bad anymore. I tried being supportive. He turned into this conspiracy freak. He thinks Tesla faked his death and uploaded his mind into radio waves. I mean, come on. It's like being married to a Reddit thread. And here's the thing that might surprise you. I did believe Tesla faked part of his death. I do think the guy was onto something about wireless energy transmission and the suppression of his work. But now I wasn't even mad about the theories. I was mad that she took the thing I loved, the curiosity, the spark that made me feel alive again, and turned it into something to mock. A prop in her low-budget soap opera of betrayal. That night, while she was in a bath, texting Miles, I went to the garage. I pulled out my old lockbox, the one with my Tesla notes, passport, backup savings, and the envelope my dad left me before he passed. I sat down at my workbench, hands trembling, and made a list. I titled it, What You Keep When You Walk Away From a Lie. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel crazy. I felt free. All right. So now I knew everything. The lies. The ridicule. The fact that I was the punchline in a two-man group chat comedy routine. And yet, and I'm fully aware of how pathetic this sounds, I hadn't confronted her yet. I wanted one more data point. Call it scientific curiosity. Call it emotional masochism. I wanted to see if she'd lie again, to my face. And then, as if summoned by karma itself, Kelly told me she wanted to host a small dinner party. Just a few friends, she said, smiling like she was trying out for a toothpaste commercial. You can talk about your Tesla stuff. I invited some people who were interested in that kind of thing. She said interested like someone says rabid raccoon in the attic. I agreed. Why? I don't know. Maybe because I wanted to believe, even after everything, that some part of her was still trying to make things right. Spoiler, she wasn't. That night, 3 guests showed up. One was her coworker Tina, who spent the entire evening on her phone. The other 2? Eli and Miles. Like it was a goddamn sitcom crossover episode. 2 men, a Tesla, and a nervous breakdown. And Kelly? She played hostess like she was born for it. Jason, why don't you tell them your theory about how Tesla's lab fire wasn't an accident? Then she winked at Miles like it was some inside joke. Eli sipped his wine and said, You ever consider writing a novel? You've got a real imagination. I laughed. Not politely. Not nervously. I laughed. A deep, bitter, unhinged laugh that made everyone stop and stare. Because in that moment, everything inside me broke, not in a tragic, shattered way. In a clean, final way. Like a paper being torn in half. I looked at Kelly. She smirked. Like she knew she had me trapped. Like she believed I'd never leave. I stood up. Walked to the kitchen. Came back with the lockbox and set it on the table. This, I said, is everything I'm taking when I leave. And in case you're wondering, yes, I know. About the texts. The calls. The voice memo where you called me a Reddit thread. She went pale. Eli muttered, Whoa? Miles said nothing. Just blinked like a confused owl. I turned to the guests. Enjoy the wine. It's on her. Then I walked out the front door and didn't look back. So yeah, that night I ended up in a cheap motel, the kind with flickering lights, a vending machine that only takes quarters, and a sad little sign on the nightstand that says no refunds after check-in. I had my lockbox, my backpack, my car keys, and this ridiculous folder full of Tesla blueprints that now looked more like the diary of a man slowly losing his mind. I sat on the bed staring at the water-stained ceiling, thinking about Nikola Tesla, how he died broke, alone, and mocked by people who never understood the scale of his brilliance. People who stole from him. People who smiled to his face and gutted him behind closed doors. People like Kelly. And for the first time, I actually felt close to the guy. I wasn't saying I was Tesla. I wasn't some forgotten genius or inventor. I was just a guy who believed in something, someone who turned out to be fake. And when I tried to explain it to the world, they laughed. Or worse, they smirked. There's a kind of grief that doesn't come with death. It comes with realization. The moment you understand someone chose to hurt you. Planned it. Enjoyed it. Kelly didn't just lie to me. She built a character out of me, some fringe conspiracy geek to make herself feel smarter, hipper, more evolved. She stole the one thing that grounded me, my obsession with Tesla, and turned it into something to be ashamed of. That night, I opened my laptop and started writing everything down. Not for revenge, not even for closure, just so I could see it. On paper, laid out, like evidence. I wrote about the garage whiteboard, the second phone, the dinner party, the smirk. The smirk, man, that haunted me more than any text. And then, I Googled Nikola Tesla's hotel room. The New Yorker, room 3327. Weirdly, it looked kind of like mine. Different wallpaper. Same loneliness. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Then I whispered, "Sorry, man. I get it now." And I fell asleep, for the first time in weeks, without hearing her voice in my head. The next morning, I woke up to 14 missed calls, 9 voicemails, and a long-ass text from Kelly that started with, "Hey, I think we both said things we didn't mean." Let me be clear, I hadn't said a damn thing at that dinner party besides the truth. But sure, let's do the classic manipulator's waltz. We both messed up, as if gaslighting someone for months and finally getting called out for it are morally equivalent. Her text went on to say, "I didn't mean to humiliate you. I just thought if I let people see what you were into, they'd understand better. I was trying to make it less intense." Less intense? What exactly did she think my obsession with Tesla was? A phase? A hobby like woodworking or fantasy football? I had dedicated years to understanding his work. I wasn't trying to make memes. I was trying to connect dots he left behind. Dots no one wanted to admit were there. But this is where it got weirder. She said, and I quote, "You're not the only one who's felt betrayed by history. I get the whole Tesla thing. That's why I let Miles and Eli talk to you. I thought maybe you'd listen better if the info came from someone you respected." Respected? Miles, the guy who stole my notebook and laughed behind my back. And Eli, the human wine bottle with a superiority complex? You know what that is? That's intellectual gaslighting. It's not just, "You're crazy." It's, "You're only smart when I control the room." It's, "Your thoughts are valid, but only through my filter." It hit me hard, how many times she had done this. When I showed her my theory that Tesla's New York lab fire wasn't an accident, she called it a fun what if. When I talked about suppressed patents, she rolled her eyes and said, if they were that important, someone would have found them by now. She didn't believe in me. Worse, she pretended to, until it stopped being amusing for her. So no, I didn't respond to her text. Not with words, anyway. I booked a 2-week Airbnb outside of town using the emergency funds I'd kept hidden since before we got married. Tesla had Wardenclyffe. I had a loft above a biker bar in central Vermont. Close enough. I needed space. Not just from her, from everyone who looked at me like I was the ghost of a man with too much thinking scribbled on his forehead. I needed to remember what it felt like to own my mind. The Airbnb smelled like dust, leather, and maple syrup. Honestly, it was perfect. It had this tiny, creaky desk by a single-pane window that looked out over a stretch of pine trees and old telephone lines. And I swear to God, the first morning there, as the fog rolled over the treetops, I actually heard the static hum of the universe. Not metaphorically. Not poetically. I mean, I sat there, turned off every device, closed my eyes, and heard it. That low, constant, almost rhythmic vibration. And maybe I was losing it. Or maybe I was finally tapping into the same thing Tesla tried to explain to deaf ears and closed minds. Whatever it was mine. And no one could smirk it out of me. For those 2 weeks, I ate canned soup, drank black coffee, and went full feral scientist mode. I brought my old notebook, my backups, my sketches of Wardenclyffe Tower from Tesla's own designs, and I built. Nothing big. Just a prototype for a small transmitter coil I'd had in my head for months but never had the courage or peace to try out. I stayed up all night tweaking it. Coil geometry, copper ratios, grounding rods. And on the 7th night, the damn thing worked. Not in a fireworks kind of way. No lightning bolts. No free Wi-Fi. But the signal traveled 40 feet wirelessly across the room and lit a little LED I hadn't connected by wire. I cried. Not because it was revolutionary, but because I did something real. Without her. Without the condescending guests. Without the double life, the second phone, or the smug smile. That little light, flickering softly in a dark room, was the most honest thing I'd seen in years. And maybe that's when I knew I was never going back. Not just to her. but to who I'd let myself become, a man too busy explaining his value to remember it for himself. When I turned off the device and sat in the silence afterward, I whispered one sentence out loud. I am not your joke. And the silence agreed. So here's the thing I never really processed until I was in that Vermont loft, surrounded by wires and coffee mugs and sticky notes like some low-budget mad scientist. Nikola Tesla never married. Not once. Died alone. By choice. When I used to read that, I thought it was tragic. Now, I think maybe the guy was onto something. Kelly wasn't just a bad wife. She was a mirror I kept looking into, hoping to see a man I could explain to the world. But instead of reflecting me back, she twisted and filtered and laughed until I didn't recognize myself anymore. And that's the real betrayal, isn't it? Not the lies. Not even the Miles and Eli sideshow. It was the fact that I trusted her with the deepest, weirdest, rawest part of myself. The part that saw mystery and coils and energy and things that didn't quite obey Newton, and she used it to get likes. She used it to feel better about not being able to feel wonder anymore. So one night, probably around 2:30 a.m., I opened her latest text. Can we please talk? I think we owe it to each other after everything we've built. And I finally replied. I typed. You didn't build anything. You observed me building, mocked me while I did it, and called it support. Tesla was right to avoid marriage. I should have followed his lead. Send. Block. Delete. Boom. Gone. No big climax. No angry phone call. No apology that made me weak in the knees. Just the end of noise. It was glorious. I slept 8 hours straight that night. Dreamed of standing barefoot in Warden Cliff, watching the tower glow blue and silent under the stars. No one else around. Just me and the current. I finally understood why Tesla let the world think he was mad. Because sometimes genius sounds like madness to people who are too afraid to think for themselves. And sometimes love sounds like cruelty to someone who never loved you, only loved the version of you they could control. So no. I wasn't going back. I was building something. And she? She could keep her wine nights and group texts and smug little smirks. Tesla didn't need them. And neither did I. Fast forward a few weeks after my grand exodus to Vermont, I get a call. From Kelly. Yeah, I know. I blocked her on everything. But apparently, she's persistent or maybe desperate. She said, Jason, can we talk? I think I messed up. I want to explain. I laughed. Out loud. A bitter, hollow laugh that rattled the cheap motel walls. Explain what? How you made me the punchline for your friend's jokes. How you used my Tesla obsession as a weapon. Or how you convinced me I was crazy. She didn't say anything. That silence? It was louder than any argument. So I told her straight. I'm done being your lab rat, your joke, your project. Tesla worked alone because no one believed him. I get it now. Her voice cracked, and for a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I hung up. That was it. No fight. No reconciliation. Just a cold truth wrapped in static electricity. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't the betrayal itself, it's realizing you can't fix someone who enjoys breaking you. And honestly, that hurt more than all the lies combined. After that call, I knew the only way forward was silence. No texts, no calls, no awkward, I'm sorry, that only made me feel smaller. I dove back into my work with a kind of furious determination, the kind Tesla probably had when no one believed in him. Days became nights, nights blurred into early mornings, and the only company I kept were my blueprints, coils, and this stubborn little LED that refused to go dark. I started sharing my work online, anonymously at first, just to see if my ideas resonated with anyone else out there who felt like an outcast or a dreamer. And guess what? They did. Messages trickled in from other weirdos, from people fascinated by Tesla, by wireless energy, by the borderline insane idea that maybe we're on the cusp of something big. No smirks. No lies. No betrayal. Just connection. It was the first time in a long time I felt seen, not as a joke, but as a person. Kelly was nowhere in that picture. And for the first time in years, I realized I was okay with that. Here's a plot twist nobody saw coming, least of all me. Remember Miles? The guy who stole my notebook, laughed behind my back, and probably sold some of my ideas at the dinner party? Yeah, him. One evening, out of the blue, I got a message from him. Not an apology. Not a snarky comment. Just a simple, hey man, I've been thinking a lot about what happened. Maybe I was a jerk. If you want, I can help you get your work out there. At first, I wanted to delete the message and block him faster than you can say Tesla coil. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the memory of how isolated I'd felt for months. Maybe it was the hope that people could change. So I replied cautiously. Fast forward a few weeks, Miles proved to be more than just a smirking bystander. He connected me with an online community of inventors, helped me set up a crowdfunding page, and even moderated some live Q&A sessions where I talked about Tesla and wireless power. It wasn't just about the science anymore. It was about reclaiming my voice. Funny how the same guy who once made me feel small ended up helping me grow. Life's weird like that. So here I am, almost a year later, sitting in a tiny workshop that smells like solder and old paper, feeling something I haven't felt in a long time. Peace. Kelly's out of my life. The lies, the manipulation, the cold smiles, all gone. And honestly, I'm grateful for it. Because without all that noise, I found myself again. I learned that sometimes, the people we love most can hurt us the deepest. But that doesn't mean we have to stay broken. Nikola Tesla never needed anyone's approval to change the world. Neither do I. I still obsess over coils and currents and the mysteries of energy. And I'm okay with that. Because I'm building for me now, not for her, not for the skeptics, but for the future I believe in. If you're reading this and feel betrayed, misunderstood, or like your passion is someone else's punchline, here's my advice. Hold on to what makes you you. Don't let anyone steal your light, even if they're supposed to be the ones who love you. Sometimes, walking away is the only way to power up again. All right, this is the last part. Thanks for sticking with me. Looking back, I realize how much my story with Kelly mirrors the mystery of Tesla himself. Misunderstood, underestimated, even dismissed as mad. Maybe genius and madness are just two sides of the same coin, the courage to see the world differently and the pain of being alone in that vision. But here's the kicker. You don't have to be a mad genius to deserve respect, honesty, and love. You just have to be you. So if your partner laughs at your passions, belittles your dreams, or lies to make themselves feel better, don't waste time trying to fix them. Fix yourself first. Find your light. And like Tesla's electric currents, let it flow freely. Thanks for reading my mess of a story. If you're in a similar spot, know this, you're not alone. And you're not crazy. Sometimes, the world just isn't ready for your kind of spark. But that doesn't mean it won't be someday. Stay bright. Stay weird. And keep building your future, one coil at a time.